Thank you.
Okay, thank you all for attending the September meeting of the ACP. Before we start, I think Susan has a few housekeeping details she needs to tell everybody about. The meeting is recorded and all that kind of stuff. Do you want to do that, Susan?
Sure. It is being recorded. I did want to let you know that there are two primary things on the agenda tonight. One is Assistant Chief Parker Lone, who's going to be able to talk a little bit about crime statistics and victimization in the county, and also the subcommittee on the community outreach. And I'm not sure if the subcommittee's come to any final decision on what you wanted to do, but we have plenty of time tonight to talk through some of those things if you wanted to flesh it out a little bit more. I also have a bit of an update, and I can't tell you too much. There were 2 vacancies for the Advisory Commission on Policing, and the council did advertise for those. I believe one of the council members wants to re-advertise. There were not very many people who applied. So the council will probably do that again. And as soon as I know definitively what date and the framework for that, I will let you know.
And I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to ask about that. So how does well, first of all, I was only aware of 1 vacancy. So who are the 2?
So Council President Friedson, they didn't appoint the full commission, and Council President Friedson did not appoint a member when the new Advisory Commission on Policing was first convened. And so since they were taking this opportunity to go out to advertise again, they were advertising to fill both of those.
Okay, so and the other position is Mike?
Yes, and that's Councilmember Ludke's nomination.
Okay. So now in replacing, how will this go? Will those particular council members be able to select, and then the full council will vote on that?
That's correct. And then their term starts when they're appointed, so that'll help with overlapping, so there's not a full turnover every 3 years.
Oh, okay, that sounds good. Did anybody else have any questions about that? Okay. I'll tell you right now, I'm on my phone, so if you put something in the chat, it may not, I may not see it immediately. So, please feel free to raise your hand, because I will see that. And so like to welcome this evening's guests to speak to us about crime statistics. I'm sorry I didn't hear the name, and I don't remember it from reading the agenda. I'm very sorry. Things don't stick in my head right now. So please come on and introduce yourself, and we'll pepper you with questions later.
Okay, that's great. So good evening. My name is Willie Parker Lone, and I am one of the Assistant Chiefs of Police with the Police Department. And my role in the Police Department is I am the Chief of the Patrol Services Bureau. First off, can everyone hear me? Okay, good. So we have several bureaus in the police department. Each is headed by an assistant chief of police, and we are then the chief of those bureaus. So the Patrol Services Bureau is the 6 police district stations, as well as the 2 midnight duty commanders. I've a little bit about myself. I've been with the department for 35 years. Looking forward to retiring soon. So I'm in the drop. It's been a great ride thus far with this police department. And I've been in my current position as an assistant chief of police and of the Patrol Services Bureau for a little over 4 years. So I know Susan asked me to come on and talk about some crime statistics and victimization. And if everyone's ready, that is what I will do. So I don't know how much you all are aware of different things with the police department, but we report out each month about our crime statistics to the state of Maryland, and then the state reports that out to the FBI and the National Incident-Based Reporting System, which is a NIBRS. So I can give you the crime statistics that have been reported out since January of 2024 until August 31st of 2024. So it's broken down into crimes against persons, crimes against property, and crimes against society. So numbers for crimes against persons. In 2023, there were 7,028. That was up from 2022 of 6,426. And so far this year, as of up to August 31st, we have 3,979.
And so just to give us some context, are we talking about assaults and,
Yes, so crimes
Okay.
against persons are assaults, homicides, sex offenses, kidnappings, those type of things. So it's against persons, not against properties.
and so as to, in comparison, and in comparing it, how does the current number stack up against the number that was relevant at this time last year? I mean, are we ahead of the curve? Are we behind the curve? Where are we?
So if you're looking at the 2023 numbers, a little bit over 7,000, we're at 3,000, we're almost at 4,000. We're a little bit ahead. So if you
Okay, thank you.
double that, we'd be a little bit ahead of 2023.
Okay,
So the crimes against property, in 2023, we had 26,776. And so far we have 18,133. Again, compare those numbers, with 2023 numbers. And for crimes against society, in 2023, we had 2,146. And so far in 2024, we're at 1,196.
and so what are crimes against society?
Crimes against society are animal cruelty, drug violations, gambling offenses, pornography, weapon violations. So we're a little bit down in those this year.
But it's a real mixed bag, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, all of these are a mixed bag of a different variety of different crimes that are just encapsulated into crimes against persons, property, and then crimes against society. So it covers a variety of different crimes.
okay, and so just for my own understanding, I remember we talked about this in a previous meeting, like a couple years ago, and I think maybe one of the things that came up was that the numbers reported to the state were different than the numbers reported or something. There's a discrepancy in the numbers, and there was some reason for that. Maybe had to do with definitions of what crimes were. Does this sound familiar to you?
I know several years ago, the NIBRS changed the definition of certain crimes. And so we had to then change the way we reported to that. So it was a little bit difficult to then capture numbers from the previous years as an apples to apples, because they changed the requirements of what the definition was in certain crimes.
And so does that discrepancy remain?
Well, to 2023, there would not be a discrepancy in that, the 2024 numbers.
Okay, so as of now, all the definitional frameworks are the same?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
I have a question. Do you break these down by districts in the information that you're giving us? Are they broken down by districts at any time?
Yes, they are. I don't have that with me tonight, but the districts, yeah, it's broken down specifically as to what crimes are reported out in each district. Absolutely.
Do you have just one? I know you. Do you have any idea what districts are more prevalent for those crimes that you have indicated?
Well,
Yeah.
historically, even as long as I've been on, it's always been the 3rd district, which is Silver Spring, that has the most crimes. The 4th district, which is Wheaton District, and then the 6th district, with its Gaithersburg, Montgomery Village. Those are the 3 busiest districts in the police department.
So, knowing that, what, excuse me, what differentials, does the police department use to address that? I mean, are there more officers assigned to the districts that are deemed to be high crime, or there are more resources? Ms. Delane would like you to repeat the 3 districts. So that's my question. The reason, it's important is because one of the proposals we had discussed was, or we had floated, was to have a community session about how about the crime statistics, and what those numbers may mean to people, and what the department is doing to address those things. Are you able to discuss that?
Well, what I can tell you is to go back to the 3 districts. Silver Spring, which is the 3rd district, Wheaton, Glenmont, which is the 4th district, and Gaithersburg, Montgomery Village, which is the 6th district. Those are the 3 busiest districts in that order: 3D, 4D, and 6D. So what I will tell you is, for my bureau, trying to look at the numbers of crimes and try to place enough officers in the districts to appropriately handle those. Just my bureau alone, I am down 161 officers. So,
Did you say 161?
161, that is correct.
And is that percentage wise, how many FTEs total? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to just interrupt, but I just wanted to make sure.
I don't know what that percentage wise is. I am authorized 832 positions,
Okay.
and I have 671 filled. And that does not include officers that are on any type of a light duty status, pregnant, hurt, that are out for a while, or anything else like that. Those are strictly my numbers that I don't have filled. Each of the district commanders has a variety of different units that they use to try to mitigate and deal with issues of crime. And so even the districts that may not have one, like the 1st district, which is Rockville, and the 2nd district, which is Bethesda, do not have a district community action team, DCAT. And those are teams that the commanders really use to put into communities for any type of issues that are happening. They can remove those officers. Those officers aren't normally dispatch calls for service, but they're there to strictly work with communities, and the district commander try to alleviate issues that are occurring within a certain area. And they go as a team. But if something happens, the other districts also then share resources when other commanders do need them. If they don't have something going on specifically, they can ask for additional resources from another district commander who is willing to release those officers to those districts to help them combat any issues that come up.
And I just want to ask you another question on this. You named the districts, but when I look at something, let's say Silver Spring, for instance, it's different. It's a lot of different communities. Do you break it out to what communities in that district is more prevalent to having the crime?
No, so the district.
Escalation.
I'm sorry, sir.
No, I'm sorry. You go ahead.
Yeah, the district commanders are allotted the numbers, and then they work with their crime analysts to then say, what areas in my district do I need to put more resources in? So the district commanders make that determination based on the resources that they are given.
I'd like to just ask a question. So you mentioned that the 3 most crimes reported districts are Silver Spring, Wheaton, and Gaithersburg. Those are also, correct me if I'm wrong, the lowest income areas of the county. the areas of the county with the worst schools, the areas of the county with the most highways. So I'm wondering sort of if there's been any research done on the social determinants of crime, on the amount of policing per capita, and into, you know, how effective policing in those districts is at preventing crime versus investing into other social resources that could reduce crime in the long run.
Well, that would not fall under me of putting other resources into other departments, if that's what you're referring to. Where a lot of the amount of police officers that we have, if we fill the academies with those people, we then place them out into the particular districts to handle calls for service and to assist citizens and the commanders in trying to make those places a better place to live and work and play. Other social issues that go on, I mean, you know, I'd be willing to sit down at the table with anybody and have a discussion about what the police do in different districts, and my district commanders are always willing to have those conversations, you know, with folks in any type of meetings that there may be.
Yeah, I guess my main question was sort of what is the amount of policing per capita in those districts compared to the other districts? I know there's certain allotments of officers, but those areas are very rapidly growing. So I'm wondering, you know, how the number of officers per capita compares, how the expenditure per capita compares to, you know, areas like Rockville and Potomac, and what we're seeing as a result.
So we look at how the calls for service, you know, so if a particular district has a large amount of calls for service, then we need to make sure that we have the appropriate resources assigned to those districts to handle those calls for service when citizens do call for assistance. So that's why when I talked about 3D, 4D, and 6D being the busiest, but again, you know, being down 160 officers, you know, really hurts me in the ability to really push out a lot of folks in different areas. And that's why we're really trying to, you know, get more folks into the police academy to make sure that we look at those things. Also, we listen to the communities, and the district commanders listen to the communities and have meetings with them to decide on where, as one gentleman asked, I think it was Arthur, asked where, you know, resources should be put. We don't just make those decisions blindly, but we like to interact with the communities to make sure that the commanders are putting the resources where it's most effective.
But I think Eva raises an interesting point, and that is, I guess some people could think, I certainly think, that, you know, that crime statistics are a reflection of other issues, right? And so, and those, you know, we ask the police to take care of stuff that, you know, nobody else quite knows what to do. So what, you know, my question is, you know, you said you weren't, you know, your department doesn't do this sort of meta, you know, big picture analysis of how all these things, all these social things feed in and make a determination about resource allocation and programs and that sort of thing. So who should we ask to do that if it hasn't been done?
That's a good question. I mean, and just to be clear, we also, when you talk about the social issues, we look at population density as well. And if you look at those 3 districts that I mentioned, there are a lot of folks that live in those 3 districts, as opposed to the 1st district, which has Poolsville or anything else like that is not as densely populated. So we have to make sure that we have enough people to answer that. But who in county government would do that type of a study? I'm not sure.
So, Susan, would you know?
So the council did ask for a staffing study, a workload analysis and a staffing study in the FY25 operating budget, and that has been approved. And it's my understanding that the department is working on contracting with an outside consultant to do that. Part of what that will do is look at the workload in all the different districts, but also the different bureaus like investigative services, the emergency communications center, and figure out, what does the department want to provide? Does it want some uncontrolled time for officers so they can do better, more positive community policing with individuals in the community? Well, that takes a lot more staff, because then if they're uncontrolled, that means they can't answer calls for service. And right now, and Chief Parker Lone will hopefully tell me if I'm wrong, but they're just constantly running calls for service right now. There's hardly any time to do proactive policing in that respect. So I'm hoping that that staffing study gets done in the next 6 months, and that should provide a better roadmap for the department to understand where it should put its resources.
And would that include any questions about converting some positions in the department to civilians as opposed to officers?
And Chief Parker Lone can.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Chief Frank, who's in charge of our Management Services Bureau, we're looking at how to make that conversion, and looking at all the bureaus to say, okay, does that position truly need a police officer in that position? Yes or no? If it's no, okay, do we civilianize that position and then move that police officer to Patrol Services Bureau to be able to put more people out on the road to help our citizens out on the streets? So that's being done, looking at all those different positions. And you have to be careful when you look at those positions too, because you have unions that you're dealing with as well, and you want to make sure that you are abiding by any issues that may come up with the unions, and making sure that people feel like they are still wanted and valued as a member of this police department. But 100% that is being looked at as we speak. And that's going to be part of that staffing, the staffing plan that Susan talked about, that the council agreed to fund for us to do. So we appreciate that, and hopefully that will get us to where we need to be. But I would also just caution you, even with all of that, we still need to be able to hire people. So that is a huge issue with us, even with our emergency communications center. We still need to hire call takers and dispatchers to be able to work. We consolidate radio channels quite frequently because of the staffing issues that is up at ECC. But so it's a whole host of issues that we're trying to work through as quickly as possible, and to get us where we need to be. Because as Susan talked about, if my and your patrol officers are just running call to call to call, when do they truly have time to get out and interact with the community in a positive manner? And that's what we really want. We want to have that community policing from each of our patrol officers that are out there in uniform and in a police car, to be able to interact with citizens in a positive light, as opposed to when it's a traffic accident, when they've been a victim of a crime, when it's a pulling somebody over for a traffic incident. So you want to be able to have those positive interactions with the community, but it's hard to do when you're down so much.
If I may jump in and ask for a couple of clarifications. First of all, the total number of officers that you're down is for all of the 6 districts is 161. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. And then the other question I have is, looking at 2023, the crime report, crime increased in the 3 districts that you mentioned as the high volume, and it decreased in the other 2 districts. So my question is, at what time, if ever, do you take the crime statistics and you take the assets that you have, all of the patrol officers that you have, and reallocate them among the 5 districts, that you make shifts as needed? So yeah, as in particular, the 3 districts that you mentioned. So in 2023, increases in crime, and the other districts either saw decreases in crime or no increase? Thank you.
So Francisco, having that staffing report come back is going to really help guide us with managing those resources and the allocation to the different districts. By really looking to say, okay, even though one particular districts may have a lot of calls for service, it only takes them 15 minutes to handle those calls. However, another district, it takes them 35 minutes to handle a call. Well, that means that there's not going to be an officer available because they're out of service a lot longer because of the types of calls that they may be handling. And the amount of calls that they have to go to that may require multiple officers as opposed to a single type of an incident where one officer can go and write a report for a theft, so to speak, as opposed to a robbery where you're sending several officers there. There's a lookout, they're circulating the area, making sure that they can try to capture somebody. So you have to really look at the weight of each of those types of calls, so the staffing plan hopefully will be able to flush that out for us and give us a better idea.
Right. So I'm sorry to just so that I understand this correctly. So what you're telling me, if I understand it correctly, is that in fact there is no yearly reassessment or shifting of assets, but you're waiting for this report to come out and take a look at this. And once you get this report, then you'll consider you or the department will consider making any shifts in assets.
So yes and no. We continuously look and we do make shifts, but it's not a large shift of officers that can make a dent, so to speak. I may be able to move 2 or 3 officers here or there. I have a huge transfer list of officers, that want to move from one district to another. I really wait for the rookie classes to come out and then determine how many officers that I have to train those rookies in the field training officer program, and then assign those rookies to the districts where they're needed. So it's constantly done, but not on a better or a bigger global scale than what we're hoping will be able to happen soon.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a question kind of dovetailed to this, the old saying, there's liars, damn liars, and then statisticians, right? So you can make the numbers do what you want. And when I looked at this, this real-time crime index is funded by a philanthropic operation called Arnold Ventures. So has anyone considered, or has this been punted to the council? I mean, you want to make sure you're getting allocations appropriately, like for your team as well as what Eva and Sherry talked about. Is there a way that anybody has gone to them and say, hey, can you help us with this a little bit more for Maryland or Montgomery County? Do you know, or do you have any read on that?
No, I do not.
So it might be something else like Heidi wrote in the chat that we could go back and ask, because if they're giving money to fund this data allocation table for the United States, it might be something that they could help us with. I think it doesn't hurt to ask, at least.
I'd also like to go.
Eva,
Oh,
go
I'm
ahead.
so
I'm
sorry,
sorry.
Sherry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry, thank you. I'd like to go back to an earlier point, which was talking about we can't have standing patrols because all the officers are busy with calls for service, which I totally understand, right? There's things that happen, but also I have noticed recently that like I have had to call MCPD for a call for service that could have been a civilian. It didn't have to be an officer with a weapon, right? Like I was in a traffic jam in a parking garage, right? We needed someone just to direct traffic. And so I called the police because they're like, who else does that? But the cops get called for stuff like that. And it seems like it could be a better and more efficient use of resources that would make MCPD be able to make the most of the officers they do have if there were more civilian positions available to, optimize the time of the officers themselves and make the most of that training that they have. So I'm wondering if that's, again, something that's been looked into, is hiring on more people as civilians. I know it's hard to recruit armed officers because people don't want to be in that position and face that type of public scrutiny. So I'm wondering if that's something the department has looked into on the recruiting side, as well as a way to make sure that officers' training and carriage of weapons is being used the most efficiently that it can be.
So what I would say is we hire for specific jobs. And if we have crossing guards, we have certain people that when there are large events, the crossing guards who are not, sworn officers and who don't carry guns, they come out and do a lot of our events for us to help people cross the street safely. So if there's an event like that you're talking about, like say it's the Wheaton Sparkle or whatever the case may be, and a bunch of people are stuck in a garage, the long and short of it is there's a system that's in play to allow when you have an event like that you let the walkers clear out first. So you don't.
Sorry, I don't want to cut you off. I understand that there are services like that, but I, as a citizen, can't call. There's no number I can call and say, can we get a crossing guard out here? Or can we get, someone who knows first aid but not an ambulance? Or can we get someone to block off part of the road so this person can change their tire or help, a baby deer that got its leg broken off the street or whatever? Like, there's no number I can call as a civilian for anything other than the police. And I'm wondering if there would be a way to put that infrastructure in place, if that's something that's been looked into. That's more what I'm asking about.
Gotcha. And as most people know, there are many calls for service that the police should not be involved in or would not, need to be involved in. But who else do people call? Like you just said, there is nobody else in county government that you may be able to call for a situation, but the police are open 24/7. We don't close. So that's all of county government looking at different issues that the citizens say, hey, we are interested in having A, B, and C. How do we go about that? And that's way outside the purview of the police department, because there are a lot of things we would love not to be able to have to respond to, so we can then do the job of what we were hired to do, is be police officers and go out there and protect and serve.
I just want to say something about what you just said. You said there is certain number of things that you would like to see someone else doing. Have that been put to the council to look at, or who would you put that question to aid you all or to eliminate you all having to do that? Because I don't think in my mind, I don't think you all could do that, and someone else would have to create that system.
Well, we have a public safety chair, of the council. So that's the public safety committee. I'm not sure if Susan would agree. Would that be somebody saying, okay, we understand the police do A, B, and C. We would like to see the police not do A, B, and C, and have that conversation. I'm sure, Chair Katz would say, well, we need to have a conversation with the police to see, is it important for them to do A, B, and C? And if they say, no, it's not, or yes, it is, and these are the reasons why, or there could be a hybrid, there could be a mixture of it. So that's something that we're always willing to look at, to try to be able to say, and this has been talked about for a while, from the council to the county executive to probably you all as well, is that the police get called for things and so many different things when we, that should they be involved in that? And that's a realistic discussion, to have. Should we be involved in certain things?
Well, can I just ask, I'm sorry, do you think based on this work study that was referenced earlier, is this something that could or should be captured in that study?
In the work study, absolutely. In the work study, we'll look at saying, okay, why are the police going out for, and this is not the case, but 10,000 calls for a barking dog, or why are the police going out for X, Y, and Z? When does that really need a police officer to go out to that? So, we try to look at a lot of different calls that we have. We have what's called a telephone reporting unit where people can call, and instead of a police officer actually responding out, people can call and get a report written by the telephone reporting unit. And then the officers on the road can do different things and things that they should be able to do, as opposed to just being a report writer. So that's, but also some people like, no, I want to see a police officer when I write a report. That's an option we always talked about or gave in the past, but realistically, do you need to see a police officer to initiate an event report about something that happened or something that was stolen? So those are all the different things we look at in trying to beef up the telephone reporting unit as well, to be able to take the onus off of the patrol officers on the street so that they can focus on things that are more important.
Can I just add a couple of things? One of the things that Assistant Chief Frank has spoken about in a couple of the public safety and the council work sessions is the potential for a retired officers program, which would require legislation. And we have not seen that yet. And it really depends on what it looks like, but it might be an opportunity to bring back retired officers who could perform some of those civilian type functions. So they would have law enforcement knowledge, but they wouldn't be carrying a gun or badge, that type of thing. And it all depends on what the bill comes across and looks like. And that would be a perfect opportunity for your commission to weigh in on what you think that type of program should look like. And it's a stopgap measure, at least, to help them with their understaffing at the moment. And it could be an opportunity to explore more civilianization of different functions that have been traditionally done by sworn officers.
And what I will tell you is we've had so many retired officers say they would love to be able to come back, and fill those roles. But the law has to be changed for them to do that, as Susan pointed out.
So to that end, I have two questions. The first is, have you been able to do an analysis to determine whether the attrition you're seeing is greater in some districts as opposed to others? I'm thinking about, burnout, and secondly, I think we had Chief Yamada. I know I've talked to him. I can't remember if it was here or someplace else, but the police seem to be trying to use drones and other kind of technology. I'm specifically going to ask you about drones as a way to lessen the use of officers in certain situations. So if you could talk about those things, attrition and drones.
So with the attrition, you have to, and I know Chief Jones talked about this a while ago, is, when you had classes come in that were 50, 60, 70 strong, but 25 years later, well, 50, 60, 70 strong are going to be leaving because that's for retirement time. So, then when we hit the wall, and not just us, but other departments throughout the nation, of having hiring issues where people did not want to become law enforcement. But when those people are ready to leave and retire, like me, 35 years, I'm way over my 25-year retirement time when you can retire 25 years. But in my class of session 22, I think there may be, six people left. But you don't have people that stay that long. So when you have those large classes that are ready to leave after they've done their full service, well, if you haven't been putting a whole lot of people in the academy class to backfill them, you're hurting, and that's what we're seeing. So it's going to take a lot of large classes to really put us back to where we need to be. And we're not the only agency that's having those issues with hiring. So, and when you talk about the attrition in some of the districts, yes, if say the 3rd district all of a sudden had 15 people that retired, I can't then say, well, we are going to allow those officers to operate down 15 people. So I would then look and deal with and discuss things with Chief Yamada and say, we need to move some people. We need to move some bodies down here to help out the 3D officers. That happened years ago, where there were several incidents that happened and the officers, several shifts were off for a while. We had to have officers that came from other districts that went down to the 3rd district to help them run the calls for service. So we are able to massage and move folks around, in that situation. But no one district right now, as I said, all of my districts are really hurting. It's, some more than others. But it's not just, just the attrition. Some people come on and decide, you know what? I'm leaving after 5 years. I got a job with the feds. I got my feet here, got what I needed. Now I'm moving on to the feds. The family's moving to another area. I want to become a police officer someplace else. So it's not just the attrition through retirement, but that's a huge piece of it when we've had these big and large classes, and now all of a sudden people are ready to retire as they should be. How do we fill these seats at the academy? Did that answer that about the attrition in the districts?
Well, yeah and no. So I mean, what I was really interested in, is our initial discussion was about crime statistics, right? And where those statistics are the highest, right? And so what I was really interested in trying to understand is, have you all done an analysis of, okay, are the people who are leaving more likely to be focused or assigned in those districts, or not? Or is it just, I mean, I assume, I shouldn't assume, but I assume you all do some kind of exit interviews to figure out why people are leaving, if they are in fact leaving before they've hit their full retirement or whatever. And so if you're not doing that kind of analysis, I'd be curious as to why not. And if you are doing it, I'd be curious as to what you found.
So when people have left, it's for a variety of different reasons, and the majority of it is because they've reached their retirement age. And it's across all the districts. And it depends when the academy classes started. If somebody says, well, right at 25, I'm going to go, and somebody else in that same academy class says, well, I'm going to go at 23 years. If I have 2 years of sick leave, that gets me my 25. Somebody else in that same academy class may say, well, I'm going in 27. So it's really a personal choice from folks to go, but it's across, it spans all the districts. And that's when I look at the rookies when they come out, and then I try to place the rookies backfilling those that have lost. So when people all of a sudden say, you know what, I'm not even in the drop program, I'm going to retire because I have the time on. Okay, well then that then affects the numbers that I have at certain districts. So then I look at when the rookies come out saying, okay, well, now the 6th district lost 7 people. Well, initially I wasn't going to be giving them 7 bodies because another district may have needed those, but now that district is now in more of a need than, say, the 3rd district. So it's always a massaging of the numbers in the bodies, trying to put them, in the best places to help out the other officers, because as you said, and quite appropriately, the burnout is large. I mean, you have officers that are just, going from call to call to call. If they make an arrest, they have to go to court. A lot of overtime is offered, so they then work overtime. So where do they and how do they really get the rest that they truly need? Because as we know, an officer that's not, operating with a full load of sleep, could make some bad decisions. Is not going to see things that they should see, and they could get hurt, or they don't see something and somebody else gets hurt. So burnout is a big issue. Mental health is a big issue in the wellness of our officers. And I'm not excluding professional staff, because I know ECC folks, have a lot of concern up there as well, because they're the ones that get those 911 calls and talk to the people in their time of crisis before the police even get there.
Could And also asked about drones, but before we lose this train of thought, would it be possible for you to provide us with the numbers by district as to how this 161 plays out?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, and would it be possible for you to provide us with also by district, you know, what these statistics, what these crime statistics are by category?
I'm writing down your question. So, okay, yep,
I appreciate that.
yes,
Because
absolutely.
otherwise you'd have to look at the tape again and that would just be a waste of time.
You said
So,
otherwise you have to what?
no, I'm just being sarcastic. I was
Oh.
saying, yeah, or otherwise you'd have to look at the tape and get the full impact of what I'm saying. And so now what about drones and the use of technology? Because I thought Chief Yamada was very bullish on that.
Yeah, we've been very with the support of our citizens and the council and the county executive. You know, we have a drone as a first responder program. And so that was launched a little while ago. And that was down in the 3rd district and the 4th district. We're expanding that out to the upper county. We really, I think the average time for the drone to get to a call is down to like 1 minute and 30 seconds. So what it really has shown us is a drone, you know, as a first responder, when a call comes in, the drone is dispatched as soon as that call comes in, and it's a certain type of an event. And we have to really deal with the flight restrictions of DC down in the 3rd district, so it can't fly, you know, but so far because of the flight restrictions. But that drone gets up in the air and gets to an event sometimes before the call is even dispatched to a police officer. So then that drone is there and says, well, wait a minute. Okay, you talked about this guy, Willie, you know, is standing there with a gun, and the drone, and so that's going to be, you know, the officers heightened, you know, going to an event. They're going to have their weapons drawn if somebody is alleged to have a gun, but the drone gets there, zooms in and says, no, he's not holding a gun. He's holding a flashlight, or he's holding a cell phone. Okay, well, then that is relayed to the officers when they're responding, because it's eyes in the sky, so to speak, and gives them real-time information about what is happening, and that totally de-escalates the situation. Sometimes they may not even have to respond. Like, okay, the guy's just hanging out in the corner. Well, why do I need to go there? The call was for a guy with a gun. We've now said he does not have a gun. Why are we going to this event? So it's proven to be very helpful for us. We pushed it out. Captain Coquinos and his folks, you know, went out and did a lot of public meetings so that people could really and truly understand what the drone does, what the drone does not do, and the effectiveness of it. And folks really seemed like they wanted the drone and appreciated the drone. So we're looking to expand that.
So, but I assume it's too early in the program for you to make an assessment about whether the drones, whether, you know, employment of the drones will diminish the need for these officers, the number of officers you've put out there.
I wouldn't say it would diminish the need for the number of officers. It would diminish the need for the officers to respond to that, so they then can respond to other issues and be more proactive and out in the community, as opposed to running calls where they really then they get there and they realize, well, this was really a waste. There was no need for the police to be there, so to speak. So that is what a drone really helps out as well. Again, just also it gives the officers real-time information once they get on the scene to be able to de-escalate before they even get there, to know, okay, this is a safe scene I'm going to. And that's what we've seen. We've liked the process of what it's done out so far. I know the drone is every flight. Citizens can go on and see every flight that the drone program has done. So if you all don't have that information, I can make sure that you get that link to be able to go and see everything, because nothing is hidden. It's totally transparent about everything the drone does. And that was something that we promised, you know, folks, that, yeah, we're not going to hide anything from you about where the drone flies, when it flew, and what the purpose of it was.
So I want to make sure, does anybody else, because I think you were scheduled to be here till 7:15 or something. So
Yeah,
I wanted to
I have a
make sure.
question.
Yeah,
I
Go ahead.
I had a lot more information to give you than just what I did with the NIBRs. So just just so you know, in reference to statistics.
go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, my question was for regarding as far as I'm sure as officers, and I'm sure we all have our speculations why we don't have people coming out of high school, college, trying to looking to make that a career. Has that been explored, and what are some of the things that can be done to make it more attractive? Or what can we do to, I guess we don't want to dumb down the requirements, or do we have an old requirements that we're asking that no longer are applicable to the position? Has that been explored so we can have more people applying and being qualified to be officers?
Yeah, and Susan, it may be a good idea too to have the captain of personnel, come and give this group a briefing on all the work that has been done. I know that person has changed. It used to be
Yeah,
Captain.
who is it now? Is it
Um,
Captain Tompkins?
Yes, Monique Tompkins is now in charge of the personnel division. But yeah, we've looked at some of the issues that Chief Jones had dealt with is the training commission dealing with marijuana. We're trying to work with Montgomery College and University of Maryland dealing with, we require 60 college credits to come on. A lot of other agencies don't. So we're reviewing that as well to say, okay, can we get somebody to, and I know this is in the works, to like accreditate our academy and say, okay, our academy is worth, just let's throw this out, 30 college credits. So we can hire you with 30. You go through the academy, and when you graduate, now you have your 60. We can't do that right now. You have to come in the door with 60. So we're trying to look at a bunch of different ways that we can get folks in, because we're losing good folks. That would be that other police departments are taking and getting, and they're fine officers. So all of that is being looked at really hard, John, about how do we make this more attractive to folks? Because then, and as you know, some people may not be able to afford. They may start to go to college and then they can't afford it for whatever reason. But okay, we put you through our academy. You don't have to pay anything. We're paying you to be in our academy because you've been hired. So it's a little bit different than most folks that pay to go to college. We're paying you, $60,000 to be in our academy. And when you then graduate, do you now get your full 60, credits, and now you can go on. Because as it goes through our department too, to go to the upper ranks, you have to then also have 120 degrees to be a sergeant, 120 credits to be a sergeant or above or degree. So at least it gets people in the door, and they can do that continued education. For even those that may be here right now that don't have the 120, they have 90, but again, life gets in the way of maybe going to school, and now they get credit for what they did in the academy. So we're looking at all those different things, and we would welcome any type of suggestions you may have, this group, to try to get more folks, through the door and in the hiring process for us.
I have a question, if I may. And it has to do with the way you look at effectiveness in solving crime, and the way you track success in solving crime. So there were 29 murders last year, and you've made arrests for about 2/3 of those. But we don't know whether those arrests have resulted in convictions, and so, in other words, the crime being solved. And so how do you track that? Is there any way that it could be tracked? Or if you can't track it and you don't track it, who should be doing it?
So that's something that I can talk to our folks about. But yeah, if we've made an arrest, that case is considered closed. And then it's up to the state's attorney's office dealing with the prosecution of it, of course, in conjunction with whatever police officer or detectives will go and testify. But yeah, if an arrest is made, that case is considered closed because we made an arrest of the person that we believe committed that crime. But
So
your
I want
point-
to give you, I'm sorry, I wanted to give you an opportunity to present the other data you said you had.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, it's just specific data about just the homicides. You know, we had 29 in 2023. We've had 8 so far in 2024, as of September 9th. When we talk about non-fatal shootings, and this is a category that's concerning because non-fatal shootings, we categorize them as contact or non-contact. So if you shoot at a house, you shoot at a car, nobody's in it, it's considered a non-contact. Now, if you're shooting at a house and people are in it, that's concerning as well. However, contact means somebody shot somebody, however, they did not die. So in 2023, we had 152 shootings. 35 of those were contacts. In 2024, year-to-date, September 6th, we had 127, 26 of those were contact. So in the total number of contact shootings that we had in 2023 were 49. So we're at 26 right now in 2024, and 207 total as opposed to 127 right now. But those are concerning because, again, with all the guns that are out there, these folks are willing to pull the trigger and shoot at people. And thankfully, you know, we only have, as I said, you know, 8 homicides. So, but it could be a lot higher if these people, you know, succumb to their injuries. When we talk about robberies, year to date from September 6th, 2023, we had 644. Right now we're at 417. Our carjackings have dropped tremendously in 2023. Year in total, we had 97 carjackings. So far in 2024, we've had 37. So that's been a huge drop, which is great for our citizens. Aggravated assaults. We have had 2023 year in total, 861 incidents. So far in 2024, 718. But it's pretty interesting because when you look at the total, the year-end totals for 2023, there were 1,074 victims, and 273 victims were family related. So 28% of those numbers, it was some type of a domestic type of a call or family related, where they assaulted each other. Burglaries, the year-end totals for 2023 was 1,483. Right now in 2024, year-to-date September 6th, we're at 962. Theft from autos, year-end totals for 2023 was 5,568. And right now for 2024, we're at 3,341. Auto thefts, 2023, we had 3,371. And 2024 right now, we're at 2,105. So what is concerning as well, and is the opioid usage and the overdoses in the county. And this is a real thing, but it's really gone down, and you know, so far where we are in 2024, which especially for the youth, it's great. So youth overdoses in 2023, we had 8 fatalities. In 2024, we've had none. There were 72 non-fatalities of youth overdoses, and youth or anyone that's under 21. And so far in 2024, we've only had 21. PMFs, people talk about PMFs all the time, the properly made firearms. Year to date of August the 6th, we've recovered 78 of those. In 2023, we recovered a total of 99, which is down a lot from 2022, which was 183. So it's dropping pretty rapidly. So I know Susan also asked for just some information on the victimization, so I can go over that very quickly with you. So from January 1st to August of 31 of this year, we had a total of 4,612 victims. The highest crime category was simple assault with 3,337 victims, which is 72% of all the victims. And the racial breakdown of those is the top three is Caucasian at 1651, African American at 1328, and Asian at 161. So those are the top three racial breakdowns of the victims for simple assault, which is the largest category. The second largest crime category from January 1st, August 31st, aggravated assault with 719 victims with 15%. So if you add those two together, 72 and 15, that's a lot that we're dealing in Montgomery County, dealing with crimes against persons with assaults. And the racial breakdown for the aggravated assaults are as follows. Caucasian, 356, African American, 305, and Asian, 26.
So, a lot of, I think people are trying to keep up with you, and take note. Are you able to provide, what you're reading to us?
I can read it again for you.
Okay, but you can't give it to us in a, in a spreadsheet or something?
No.
Okay, is there a reason?
Well, we have never really released the racial, in any type of written form, racial breakdown of the victims. Even if you look at the annual report from last year, the race is not in there. So I know that was a question that you all had asked, so that's why I was providing it for you.
And so I just want to be clear, that race, is determined by self-identification or by the officer's observation?
So when you're the victim of a crime, normally then you fill out the report and then you're asking people the information. So it's very rarely is it going to be that the officer just make that assumption about what somebody is. So they're asking somebody, for their ethnicity, because we know that, a lot of times people ask about the Latino population, Hispanics, and that's not a race according to, the NIBRs and everything else like that. But we actually keep that information because people have been asking for that for a while now. So if you want those numbers for the ethnicity for that simple assaults out of the 337, we had Hispanic that were 835, and not Hispanic was 2,502, giving the total of that 3,337. For the aggravated assault, that was a simple assault. For the aggravated assaults of 719, Hispanic was 206, and not Hispanic were 513.
Let me ask you this. Doing your information process there, presentation, you indicated in assaults that we, it was, how many were domestic and not domestic? Can you do that for homicide? When you first started, you did the homicide one. Is it more domestic or or otherwise?
It is otherwise this year, and the majority have been with handguns. Well, not with handguns, with firearms.
Yeah, but is it domestic or?
No, the majority are not domestic.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So I think a lot of people find the opioid overdose information, the great reductions you've discussed as being very encouraging. Is there something you can attribute that to? Is the availability of what's it called, Narcan? Or I mean,
Yeah,
it's just that simple.
It's really, so, Captain Satinsky and his folks with CED, they have the Cope trailer that really goes out and educates a lot of folks. I know MCPS, and along with Captain Satinsky, they held a lot of different community meetings for folks to try to educate them on Narcan usage and everything else. So, but quite frankly, if we did not have Narcan, we'd have a whole lot of dead people in Montgomery County. I mean, and it's, you wonder, is it a good or a bad thing? So to me, if I have a loved one that I know is a drug addict and addicted to drugs, well, is that bad for me to have Narcan with me to be able to assist my loved one, because I know they're struggling with addiction? So I think it's a good thing that we have that out there, because it saves lives. But does that then make my loved one say, well, no matter what, I know Willie's got Narcan. I know if I overdose, I know Willie's right there and is going to save him. So it's a double-edged sword, but I'd rather people be alive than dead. And then hopefully at some point, they can get the help they need to get over that addiction. And some people are trying drugs for the first time and don't know there's fentanyl in it, and they think they're taking X and they get something else, and that's all it takes. So I mean, the amount of times, and these are the numbers that we know about. People are in a house and somebody overdoses and they hit them with Narcan and don't call the police, don't call fire and rescue because the Narcan works. So these are the numbers that we truly know about. So, but I agree. I think they're great numbers, where lives are being saved. So we're definitely happy to see that.
The other reduction you mentioned is I think carjacking.
Yeah.
So is there obviously, so is there something we can attribute that to? I mean, I've noticed that carjacking kind of happens in waves, so is this people are like, okay, I don't want to play that game anymore. I mean, is there something we can attribute the reduction in carjacking numbers to?
Well, I know there's been a lot of arrests made. There was a whole task force between us and PG and the state dealing with carjacking. So when it happens, it's immediately broadcast to other jurisdictions about the car. So there's been a lot of investigative work that's been done with that. But, I don't want to talk ill about, our neighboring jurisdictions, but, the numbers in PG or DC are, in the hundreds compared to ours. So for whatever reason, I don't know with that. So I'm happy it's staying in other areas and not coming back into Montgomery County. But I know there was a lot of investigative work. A lot of people were arrested previously for carjackings. And so hopefully that's put a dent for the Montgomery County piece. But then again, it is still happening in large numbers in jurisdictions around us.
I guess to me, this kind of raises the issue of, so there are things that we have seen reductions in, right? There's carjacking is a property crime, and I forget what drug use is, what is societal crime against society or something like that. Okay, so and there may be some other things you mentioned that there are reductions in. So for the carjacking and the opioid overdose numbers, I'm wondering who we could ask, right? Who we could ask to actually do a deep dive and find out why those reductions occur. Because it seems to me, and this is just like my, armchair review, that that they probably both were reduced because of other things we did, right? They didn't. So the carjacking may have been reduced because there was a task force, because there was additional investigative resources. The Narcan may have reduced the opioid stuff, the opioid overdoses. It's the other stuff we did that accounted for the non-necessity of having a police response. And that's a really good thing. So I'm wondering if it's possible to do that analysis and then figure out, okay, for this other stuff that doesn't seem to be going down, is there other stuff we can do? Because it's not just about police response sometimes. What do you think?
Oh, I mean, I 100% agree. It's not always just about police response. I mean, you know, you have to have a collaboration of other, you know, MCPS, HHS, you know, the state's attorney's office, other entities. Because quite frankly, if someone is now interacting and doing a crime and interacting with my officers, it's a little too late. Something's happened along the way that that person has made a decision to do crime. So, but we are the ones that then are dealing with that, and then the victims of said crime are the ones that have to deal with that. But there's something along that path that led that person to make a determination of, I'm going to commit a crime. I see somebody walking down the street, I'm going to go run up and grab that woman's purse. I'm going to run up and grab that man's purse. Well, why? What caused that? You know, then that's what we need to figure out with society, is why are people committing these crimes? What is the reason for it? Are there not enough resources that we're providing to citizens to make them feel like they don't need to do X, Y, and Z? That's a big issue to tackle, because quite frankly, when they see my folks, well, it's too late at that point. You've committed a crime.
No, I just second I just second Sherry Branson's question, and that I hope that we can, you know, obviously not today, but I do think that either the police department or someone else would benefit greatly from taking a look at these statistics and trying to figure out what were the drivers in increase or reduction. Because I think this is going to help both the police department, but it's also going to help the council allocate resources where they're most effective.
Yep.
I have one other question.
Go ahead, Arthur.
Okay, I have one other question. Do you all document how many crimes are committed by people who are not residents of Montgomery County as opposed to all residents of Montgomery County?
So we when someone is arrested, you mean, do we gather the information about where they live?
Yeah. Well, you know, some of the crimes I read about, they are from Prince George's County or Howard County or something like that. How do you document that different so we would know that, or do you rather, as opposed to they are residents of Montgomery County?
So I will have to check with our crime analyst, but that is information that we would have if an arrest was made and we knew where that person was from. We do have a lot of people that come into this county from other counties and commit crimes. You know,
yes, I did notice when I'm reading this stuff in the local paper that a lot of the crime, well, it seems like,
yeah,
it's frequently done.
Yeah, that you're reading correctly, but if you're asking, do we actually keep the numbers on that, I can find out. But you know, it is factual that people enjoy coming into Montgomery County for whatever reason, you know, to commit crimes and then jump back across the border, you know, knowing that we can't chase them, you know, into the other jurisdiction. So that is a huge issue. I mean, dealing with one kid who keeps coming into Montgomery County from DC and committing burglaries at car dealerships.
So, and I think that might be important, if not interesting, to know, because it, you know, there's this overall perception that some places in the county are dangerous, quote unquote, and so there are people who live there who are dangerous, quote unquote, like Silver Spring, like downtown Silver Spring. I've had people tell me that they're afraid to go to downtown Silver Spring. you know, which I don't understand, but anyway, and I'm wondering if providing information about and I think it factors into, what can the county do in its programs to help people? If we know that, doing this might not be helpful because this person would never take part in this school program because they don't live here. So I think it's potentially another data point that may help someone get figure out how to address what's going on. I don't know if that's possible for you all to do, if that would be like too much to take on.
Yeah. What I'm saying, what I will also say is, to me, does it matter to me if someone's living in Montgomery County and committing that crime, or coming from DC or PG or Virginia and committing the crime? Because we can't stop people from coming into the county. I mean, it's good to know that, the majority of our crime may be committed by others, but what steps can we as a government do to stop people from coming in? No, people have a right to get in a car, to get on the metro and go where they please. So it may be good information that you all may like to have, but what steps can be done to convince people not to come into our county to commit crimes? Well, quite frankly, is if they get arrested and they do some time. That may be a driving force to stop people from coming in. But I know for a fact we've had the Street Outreach Network. We've had them down in Silver Spring trying to deal when we had a bunch of juveniles coming in. And when they would go and talk to those folks, those kids would say, "You ain't got nothing for me. I'm from DC." So here we are with the experts that we have, the Street Outreach Network folks, trying to talk to people about all the resources that we have here in Montgomery County. And they're thumbing their nose about it, saying, that doesn't help me. I don't live in a county. I just come up here to chill.
But I appreciate
think
that, and I'm glad you said that. But I think what that means is, how about some interjurisdictional cooperation here? Because you're right. I mean, we are, we border, other places. Nobody's gonna build any walls here. So, and if we know that maybe folks are, bored, young people are coming over here committing mischief. If we have a collaboration with the folks in DC or Prince George's or wherever they're, a subway right away from, that could be that could be another means to, because to me this is a regional thing. It's very regional, right? And we can't divorce ourselves from the region. So I'm wondering if you all have those kind of, collaborative efforts, or if anybody has, tried that and it didn't work or whatever.
100% we have those relationships and task force with our officers on a bunch of different task force, throughout this region. But again, even though you have those relationships, again, the one young guy that I just mentioned, he was over in PG, burglarizing another car dealership, and they arrested him and then drove him home, just like we've been doing, because he's not getting placed by Department of Juvenile Services and he's from DC. So even though we have these understandings with people and are able to work on different task force and work on crimes with folks, it's like you said, we can't build a wall. So they may say, we go to Montgomery County because this. They may say, no, we go to PG to do crimes because of this. When we talk about all these street takeovers, we do a lot more in Montgomery County than other jurisdictions do. And I spend a lot of resources when we hear folks maybe coming in the county, putting a lot of cops out there along the borders with their flashers on. So when people come in, they're like, oh, Montgomery County's out here in force. We're going back to Baltimore. We're going to PG County. So we do a lot of those things, but again, it's time consuming, but you know, my cops do a great job of trying to make sure that they have these plans in place to address issues that come in the county. But again, those cooperations we have with other jurisdictions, you know, it's fine when you're looking at crimes that you're able to charge people with, like the carjacking task force, or if you have a burglary, you know, burglary ring that's going on. But if you have kids or people just coming in this county and acting out, you know, how do you address that?
I have something I just kind of want to co-sign some what Sherry is saying, you know, with some of the youth jumping over into the county, especially if you're looking at that Silver Spring area, Langley Park. It's very easy access to jump off that line, do something over there in New Hampshire Avenue, bam, you're back over into PG County and DC really, really quick, and you can't chase them. But I think it would be in the best interest to maybe seek, you know, I know we're working on a relationship with the community of some ideas if the police are lacking some of those ideas, because I think the residents in our county do want to feel safe. They may have some ideas and may be able to give some great insight on how we can help that. And that would definitely take something off of the hearts and minds of our police department. You know, of course, there have to be some relationships built, and I guess our commission could probably help with some of that, you know, if we were to look into that. But I think it is something that we probably should think about, putting a top shelf to think that we need to look at this, because if we can alleviate that, then we won't have people saying, I'm scared to go to Silver Spring. The only reason they're scared to go to Silver Spring is because, you know, we've got some of that stuff happening and it's quick access to get back over the line. I know that years ago, when I had some folks that I knew lived in Frederick, they didn't want Metro connected to DC because of the potential crime that they would get in Frederick, and it's easy to get back on the Metro. My best friend's father told us years ago when the shooting of Dr. King, he said when that happened and there were riots, that Montgomery County, they put people at the borders of PG and DC. They wouldn't let folks in. I know we can't do that now, but you know, they took great lengths to make sure that nothing was going to happen. We weren't going to have riots here in Montgomery County. So not that we're going to have riots, but we're thinking about the seriousness of the crimes being committed from people who are outside the county. Maybe it should be something we should put in the forefront of our thinking. So I just wanted to co-sign what Branson said.
So, first of all, does any other commission member have a question or a concern they want to? Mr. I want to say Parker, but I know that's not right, and I don't know why your name is not sticking in my head.
Parker Mill, that's fine.
Right. Is there anything else you wanted to share with us? Is there anything you believe it's important for us to know? And thank you for being so generous with your time.
Yeah, no, I just, you know, thank you for having me. Look forward to, you know, a continued relationship of trying to figure out the best way to handle, you know, issues or crime or whatever it may be, traffic in Montgomery County, because that's what we all want. We all want a safer county for us to be able to play and live and work in. You know, so and just to understand, you know, I think it's important for your committee to understand, just like I said, that staffing is a big issue. That's a big issue for us, because I do want my commanders out there with their folks interacting with citizens in a positive light. But if we don't have the time to do that, that's not good. You know, and I think it's important for us to be able to have those relationships with folks. I know Silver Spring did a lot of work with having, you know, basketball tournaments for kids up in White Oak and up at the East County. I know they also did futsal, I think that's what you call it, little soccer ball. They did that over in Langley Park, not in Langley Park, but off of Piney Branch Road with that community. So we have a lot of officers that are really invested in wanting to get out there and interact with our youth in the communities, but they need to have the time to be able to do that. And that's part of policing. Policing can't just be you're writing people tickets, you're going to people's houses when they're harmed. You got to have those positive interactions with folks so they can understand that you're there to help them in their time of need.
And I appreciate that. And I think that also, from a civilian perspective, we have communities that, that don't want to feel like they're being over policed, and so it really, but in the meantime, nobody wants to feel like, they're unsafe, so, there is a balance. And, I think everyone is concerned about or wants to assure that we are right sizing, and a part of that right sizing, may have to do with not adding more police numbers, but adding, different kinds of positions and moving around responsibilities, stuff like that. But yeah, I just want to, I want to make sure, that I say that, there are some communities that, that do feel over policed, and that's, that's not good either. And nobody, nobody wants that. So I do
would love for
appreciate your
those,
time.
and I would love for those communities to really, sit down and have a conversation, with us and the district commanders, so we can get an understanding of what they're feeling and really say, okay, this is why there are so many police officers in this area, because you've had these robberies. So that's why you're now seeing an influx of officers in the area. This is why. So, I mean, without having that conversation with folks to get an understanding, I think that's not a good thing where people just say we're over policed, or the police, are always in our neighborhood, and there's not an understanding of why they may be in that neighborhood. And my cops better be doing the right thing when they're in that neighborhood. I mean, there's that side of it as well. I mean, people deserve the right to be treated respectfully, and if my cops aren't doing that, then we hold them accountable for it. So by and large, as you say, it's a partnership, that we have to make sure people feel safe. And as you said, if there are communities that feel like there's over policing, let's sit down and have that conversation and discuss, why.
Well, I appreciate that. Is anybody else, or can we let this fine officer go on with his evening without us if he chooses to? All right. Well, on behalf of the ACP, I really want to thank you for coming in, being so generous with your time, and remind you that it would be wonderful if you could give the data we asked for to Susan.
Okay.
Thank
All
you
right.
very much. Appreciate it.
You all take care.
Thank you. Okay. Susan, what's next on the agenda?
There was supposed to be some time for the subcommittee on the community outreach forum to discuss plans. I don't know if you wanted to table that until the next meeting, or have the subcommittee send something out to the full commission to take under consideration.
Yeah, I'll send something out. I just want to ask you one question though. I saw somewhere or another that the PAB is going to start listening sessions again. I saw that this week, that they plan on starting listening sessions again. Do you know if that's accurate, or because I don't, I think it would be kind of, I don't want us, all run around trying to listen to the same people at the same time. That make a lot of sense.
I do not know. They have a new executive director, and I have not been in contact with that person yet. So I will reach out and find out for you.
Yeah, because if they have a schedule, I think that it would be helpful, that we're not stepping all over them and whatnot. That's not good for anybody.
Right.
I saw that too, Sherry. I thought the same thing when I saw it. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I think I see things I didn't really see, but I thought I saw that. I'll be happy to. I admit to being derelict and not getting this out. I've had a lot of things go on in my life. So I think things have simmered down now. And so I will be, getting out, and here's what I I think here's, and you all let me know. I mean, here, like my basic thoughts. One, that we have, a session in each of the police districts, right? That's number one. Number two, that it not just be a y'all come and complain, but that, or y'all come and defend. I mean, because that's usually what they end up being. People come and defend how great the police are, which doesn't get us anywhere to try and figure out, where the problems are. So to have specific topics that, for each regional meeting, to use the regional centers, to try and do this on a non-Monday, so that people in the community can actually show up. And to have not just us, but someone like from the police or wherever, whatever the topic is, to have someone actually give a presentation about, whatever the numbers are, whatever the thinking is on the issue. Because I don't think, we're not paid county government employees. I don't think we should be, providing justifications about what's being done. I think, I really think our role is to make sure people know, and to hear back from them. So I'm open to, and to do one of these every quarter, bearing in mind that our terms are 3 years. So I'm open to hear what you all think about that.
Let me ask you this first. Are you talking about in-person meetings?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
And how
that would be the reason to go to the regional centers.
And how many districts are there that we're talking about?
I misspoke. I didn't mean districts. I meant the regional center. So there are 4.
4. Okay.
Yeah, I want to say 4. Yeah.
So that in a year, that would be one, rotate one in each quarter, like you said.
Yeah, 1 a quarter. Mm-hmm. The problem is that some of the regional centers are not open on the weekends. And I want to say it is Bethesda and the one that's out in Germantown or Gaithersburg, because it's right on the line, so I forget which side of the line it's on. They're not open on the weekends. And so for those places, we would have to find alternative venues.
And
But
so
still
that
keeping in mind that, to be in those, those areas, those not to just do everything in Silver Spring, in other words, but to be in different areas. Sorry, go ahead.
So
and
what
so
you're
that I understand, you are saying that we should only have them on weekends to maximize attendance?
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay.
What I'm suggesting that,
Okay.
because until you all vote on it, nothing happens till everybody, votes.
No, I'm only asking because you said 2 of the centers weren't open on the weekend, so I didn't want to assume that.
Yeah, so those are out. If doing it on the weekends is something you wanted to do, then we couldn't do them at those centers because they're not open on the weekend. So that's just sort of additional information.
Understood.
regarding the topics to be discussed at these meetings, maybe we can try both. One where we just listening and making clear that we're listening to the community, and as an alternative, do another one where we have someone come in and do a presentation. My concern is that unless the presentation is meaningful to the community and it is something that they've asked for, the question becomes, what comes first, the presentation? Is this something that we know that they want to see, or is this, or should we listen first and find out what it is that they're concerned about?
Oh,
So that's a sort of chicken and egg question.
Okay,
Right, but I agree with that, but I think we also have to be careful in that, so for instance, I wouldn't want to have something in Silver Spring about high crime rates. And the reason is because I think that might be kind of offensive to the people in Silver Spring. They might want to hear about something else. So, but clearly, that would be a topic that would, involve the information we know about what's going on in Silver Spring. So, I guess, it does, this whole thing is going to take a little bit of finessing, when it comes to picking these topics.
okay, could we determine whether we're gonna do this first before we determine what would be said at the meeting? We haven't decided that we're gonna do it. Okay, can we, I think we should get some kind of a consensus or agreement or whatever, one way or the other. For me, I'm going to say I'm open to doing it, but I'm not open to doing it on the weekend. Okay, but I think it's a good idea, and after we decide on it, then we can determine how we're going to deal with the subject matter.
I think, Arthur, we voted at a previous session to do this.
Okay,
We
I
did
thought
not
you-
vote on the weekend versus weekday thing, but I'm pretty sure we voted on doing these outreach sessions because under the current law we're supposed to. And I think we came up with doing one a quarter. That is my recollection. Susan, is that your recollection?
Yes, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm not muted. Yes, you're required to do one per year under the law, but you can do as many as you like.
So we have to decide whether we're gonna do more than one. It's
Correct.
because you threw in every quarter.
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought we had already voted on doing one a quarter, frankly. So maybe my recollection is off.
I'll have to check. I'm not sure. I thought it was referred to subcommittee to determine the structure, but I'll check.
Yeah, just for what it's worth, the legislation that establishes the ACP requires the ACP to seek input from the community directly. The letter with guidance from the county council makes that a priority, that and in fact, they get very specific as to how we should, the kind of feedback that we need to get, that we should elicit from the community. So I think it's very important if we have not formally decided to do it, whether it's once a quarter or once every 4 months. I have no strong feelings, but I do think that it is very, very important for us to do this.
Well, I think so too, but we have to decide whether we're gonna do it quarterly. We have to make a decision though, whether we're gonna do it quarterly, once a year, or what. I'm agree with doing it quarterly. I don't have a problem with that. So I would like to get that settled and then go
Okay.
on.
So let me make a motion. I move that we hold 2 public outreach sessions between September of 2024 and April of 2025.
Well, if I may,
Okay.
can we do that from October? Because if I'm not mistaken, aren't there some trainings that's supposed to take place here in September?
And that's the other thing. I don't know the schedule for the trainings, but yes, I think I take that as a friendly amendment to the motion. So that we hold two sessions between October of 2024 and April of 2025.
I
Is
second that.
anybody gonna second that so we
I
can vote on
second,
it?
I second that. I second.
Okay. And so all those in favor of that, please, please, indicate in the chat, yes. And if you're not in favor, please indicate no.
Miss Branson, can I put a
Yes,
date on
ma'am.
that? Can I make a date October 1 to April 1? Make it specific.
That sounds
Oh.
great to me.
Thank you.
Okay, looks like everyone has voted yes to that. And, oh, wait a minute, sorry, I'm trying to read these messages and look at, okay. So it looks like everyone has voted yes. So the subcommittee, can move forward with that guidance. Is there anything else that people would like to mention about this that you believe will be guidance for the subcommittee?
There's a couple of things that just very general that has come up in our discussions before that we will use the resources of the county council to advertise these meetings so that we get the maximum in participation. We should decide whether these community outreach meetings are held in lieu of the monthly ACP meetings. We should decide whether during these ACP meetings, community outreach meetings, we can do some minor routine tasks like approving the minutes or of the previous meeting, and whether the community outreach meetings should be hybrid to allow people to participate by video link. I have no strong feelings on any of these things, but I thought I heard them in earlier discussions, and I think maybe we can go ahead and decide that in the subcommittee.
Yeah, I agree. I really agree that that we can and should decide those things in the subcommittee. The hybrid thing, I think, anyway, I don't want, so I think we should decide that in the subcommittee. I just want to make sure that we as a one body have agreed to this in principle. And I think that may be sufficient. And I'm glad you said what you said, because now that reminds me that when we opened the meeting, we did not approve the minutes from the last meeting, which we need to do officially. So all those in favor of approving the minutes from our previous meeting, please indicate in the chat. Okay, I think that's everyone. And so with it being 8:18, is there anything else on the agenda? Because I thought that was it, Susan.
No, there's nothing else.
All right, is there any new business that anyone would like to raise? Okay, hearing none, I'm moving, well, let me say this first of all. It is really best to contact me via email as opposed to a phone, because I'm kind of, doing some other stuff right now. So if you need to contact me, please email me. And with that, I am moving that we adjourn the meeting. Is anybody gonna second that, or y'all
I'll
want to stay
second.
here for some more? Okay. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Or give me a wave. All right. Thank you very much for your service to this county. I look forward to seeing you all next month or maybe even before. So have a good evening.
Same to you. Good night.
All right. Bye-bye.